Welcome to Tropes and Tantrums. I'm Amber.
And I'm Danielle. We are just two moms, never without our kids or our Kindles.
Welcome back, book besties. Did you miss us? Because we sure missed you guys.
We missed each other too. We missed each other. We missed you.
Oh, man.
This is like, it's like very much like, I know if you've been around for a hot minute, you know this is like our like time together as well. Absolutely. And it's just been like we really haven't seen each other. I mean, this week we've seen each other
3 different times.
But it's to make up for all the times we haven't seen each other. So
I mean, Char was giving you a hard time.
Just like, what do you
mean? You saw Amber, like we literally saw each other last night.
Yes.
And she's like, what do you mean you're seeing Amber? You just saw her on Wednesday.
Because we were at the splash pad and then but like technically those are 3 separate entities of not only time to get momming
on Wednesday.
We were momming night out last night.
And
so
today we're
podcasters. So you know what?
I'm okay with this.
No, I'm literally okay with this. And then I was just thinking, because you were saying podcasters, and all I was thinking about was Kristen being like, you guys are like professional readers. Because like because we were joking. Like, it's like casual. Kristen's like, no, there's nothing casual about the way you read.
Her friend Peyton last night was like, oh yeah, I'm reading a book right now. Like, I can't think of the name of it, but it's got like a plane on it. And it's like really colorful.
and she writes like military romance.
And I go, in the likely event. And she goes, what?
And straight up in my head.
And by the way, that was the book that she's reading.
It was. And I thought the same exact thing. I said, oh, she's definitely reading Rebecca Yarros. Yeah. And like, I wasn't going to say, because like, I didn't want to like sound like a psychopath. Like, I always can appreciate that Amber's going to say the things that I won't say.
Will definitely.
And that's like, everybody needs like their best friend to be that way and say the things that they won't say. Because there's like always got to be that one person who steps forward for.
It is what it is.
I appreciate it. Like, I can't complain about it because I just really love it.
No, and then my sister called me a freak.
Yeah.
She's like, you're such a freak.
I mean, like, the tracks for Kristen.
I mean,
like.
Honestly, you said military romance. My brain immediately goes to
Rebecca Yarros. 100%.
And then she was like, the cover is colorful and I think it has a plane on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I go,
in the
likely event.
And then we're like,
of course I had to plug. I was like, when you're done, we also have an episode on the unlikely event.
And then Kristen's like, I told her about.
Like, send her the link.
She's like, I told her about I gave her the lowdown about the. I mean, it doesn't. You give us an inch. We're gonna take a mile. We're gonna take a mile for sure.
Maybe 4.
Also, let's talk about the elephant in the room. We're finally in our space.
So exciting.
The last time you saw us, well, you didn't see us. The last time you heard us, we were in my house pre-renovations. We are now in
very empty, echoey house.
Yes, and lots of planes.
The planes. I didn't think they'd get picked up, but
okay. But here's
can pick up the semis honking.
But here's the thing. Now being in the house, and I don't know if it's because now like there's kids running and screaming and like there's things. I maybe have heard a plane on maybe 2 occasions, and I am dead honest. And that happened to be a 3-hour time frame. We were sitting in the house and we heard planes nonstop. But then literally having been in the house now for almost a month, maybe on 3 occasions have I heard a plane, which is what I'm like, was it just like
maybe it could be that it was just like the time of day. I don't know. There could be like a ton of.
It's just so weird. But you didn't see us on that episode. And now we're in here. This is actually my office specifically. It belongs solely to me, as it should, because I'm here all day long. But it's also the dedicated podcast space. I had to search high and low for the correct chairs for this room because I was. I have to order one. It's called like the lazy chair.
That's what you call it. It's on Amazon.
It's amazing. And it was like 100%. It was a little weird to put together, but not hard. It took me like 5 minutes, but
comes with a little footrest.
It's a footrest. It's currently being used for our podcast equipment. But
I'm using mine.
I mean, that's why I left yours, because I was like, maybe she's gonna want it. I don't like love sprawling out all the time because I feel like a weird like dragon or something.
I could sprawl in blanket all day.
I mean, 100%, totally understand that. I'm like a crisscross sitter most of the time. Right now, I'm not. But yeah. So that's a little bit about the happenings of like the today happenings of like
today happenings.
We're back, we're here. Yeah.
So we're going to start with a short, quick April wrap up and talk about a few things. And then we will jump into another episode of May, more in depth, what we did last night, all of the things.
Are we doing that in the May episode?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Perfect.
I think it's...
Do we want to do Taylor first or do...
Yeah, let's jump into Taylor.
If you've been living under an absolute rock, Taylor released her new album, The Tortured Poets Department, on April 19th. And like, I've got to be transparent with you guys. Like, I just wasn't feeling it.
Were you not feeling it because it came out in a time where your life was just busy? Because you couldn't really sit with it?
No, I sat. Don't worry. I did sit with it. I sit with it a lot. But I don't know why. I was like, I'm just not, like, I'm not vibing with it. And then I kind of had to remind myself, I felt the same way about Reputation, and Reputation is now like
one of your favorites.
One of my absolute favorites. And I was like, I think this has now definitely risen higher on what I would consider my top rankings of albums. It's still not in my top 5.
Okay.
I think because of the overwhelming, one of the things that I think made it hard for me is it was a little bit overwhelming to have 31 tracks released at once. That's so, like, I mean, like, feed me. Like, I love them. Like, I love that for me. But, like, it's just a lot to digest. And lyrically, it's one of the most complex albums she's ever put out, I would say, or maybe if ever. Mm-hmm. And especially if you consider, like, go back to, like, Midnights. Like, they're completely different albums that happen to be written at the same point in her life, essentially, which is kind of wild because lyrically they're so different. And like, so, like I said, one is so much like deeper and more complex and all the things.
Well, I think Lover was a will he or won't he album.
I think Lover's one of her saddest albums, if I'm being totally honest.
I mean.
Yeah.
I think it's like a will he or won't he kind of vibe. And then, I mean, skip the COVID like albums and just jump straight to Midnights. Midnights was a breakup album. Oh,
I will die on that hill. Everyone who thinks that Tortured Poets Department was the breakup album is not the breakup album. It's the release album. It was the, I'm like getting over this and I'm releasing all of this. And she even tells everyone that this is the chapter in her life she's closing. She's done talking about it. She's done talking about the relationships. She's done talking about the she's moving forward. And we got really sweet glimpses of that in the Tortured Poets Department, which I'm really glad about because I think that was one of my biggest hangups is it just felt so sad and angsty. Like, thank God that album did not come out when I was like in high school because I would have been like in the fetal like every single day. And I mean, I still was listening to Fearless. So like, if you think I would have been like a hot mess. That's so true. No, Midnights was absolutely her breakup album. And the Tortured Poets definitely was the like wrap up of that season of her life. Yeah. And we're also looking because my wall's up here. She's got all of my album wall. But like, I love it. I really do love it now. I think it's wonderful. I think it's one of those albums that it's going to continue to get better for me, which I actually really love because there are some albums like Folklore, like, gonna be honest, wasn't a fan. And because I think it was so different than such a departure from the Taylor that I knew. And I was also in like a really crappy season of my life.
But she also was writing like based off like characters she made up in her head or watched on TV or read in books.
100%.
Nothing was happening in her life.
I think there's a lot more allusions to her life than she wants
you to believe.
I mean, do I 100% believe that the Betty August James timeline was made up? Absolutely not. I'm fully in the camp that it was her, Joe, and what's his loser face that I can't. Matt Healy. That's what it is, because it's a go back and forth, just like everyone was out here like being shocked about how much of the Tortured Poets Department was about Matt Healy, and they're like, it was just such a short fling, blah blah blah.
No, I did they date like on and off for years
since 1989. Like that's a long time. And I think everyone, if you are like, obviously we're very close to Taylor's current age, so we've kind of been in the same seasons of like life. I mean, obviously you and I are in the mom season. It's a different season, but very much if you've ever been in a long-term situationship, like she clearly was in with him, those can be much harder to get out of than your standard relationship, because you feel like you're on a push and pull constantly. Like, won't he, kind of like, is he going to commit? Is he not going to commit? And then,
well, if I decommit from him,
is he going to then decide that, and then I'm going to go find, or he's going to go find someone. And you definitely feel, like a mess. And it's 100% so messy. And I think everyone was like thinking there was going to be more like Joe diss tracks on the Tortured Poets Department, and there wasn't as many as people expected.
I think she was done with Joe during
Midnights. That's what I've always said that. I mean, I think
they've been broken up
way longer.
We know.
No, I 100% think they were broken up pre-Era's tour. Oh, yeah. I don't care what anyone says. He never showed up once at Eras. Don't tell me that some six-year long relationship with a guy who has nothing going on in his life. You know, sorry, Joe, except not sorry. You're not doing anything. Like you could have absolutely like Travis Kelce's like doing shit, and he's like still like freaking like doing.
Like when Joe was going out of his way to show up on like the Reputation tour.
Yeah,
and things
it's
like
100% different.
Yeah.
Like, and so if you're, and that was even like, they were still so freshly together at that point.
Yeah.
And I just think, like you said, I believe that Joe's album was Midnights, and I think that Matt Healy's album was the Tortured Poets Department.
I think it was like I'm cleansing you from my life, and there is no coming back from all of this.
No, we're done. Like, we're done.
We're done.
And I think
I think he fucked up.
No, I think he did too. And I think...
Not that I think that they were ever going to be like Endgame or like...
No, I don't.
Serious. I think it's just like...
But I think everybody has that where they're like... They think someone's going to be Endgame, and then they keep going back because they're like, this is the time that... They're like... No, it's going to work out this time. Like, we're in a different place. Like,
we're older.
When you hear of, like, Fresh Out the Slammer, like these songs that she very much, like, was like, okay, like, I'm going back to him and, like, it's going to work this time. I truly believe that he was the biggest loss for her. And I will actually die on...
She wanted it to work.
I think what really sent it spiraling, I think it was already heading down a bad path, like regardless, because it was clearly very toxic, very messy. I mean, it made the songs amazing because like they're so good. Was when everyone found out that they had like been dating, and like it wasn't known because he has lots of songs about her, and that's like very well known is that the songs that he writes about her. And then he became more public on the Eras tour, and then you had, no offense, but you had the new Taylor fans, the ones who are like, ew, like where did this guy come from, like he's so gross. And like, yes, he is gross, like I'm not gonna like deny that, but like they're like very much like creating like hate videos and like sending her all these messages and like about like you need to break up with him. Like, who are you to critique on someone's life you don't know? Who like she allows you into the deepest parts of her brain through her music. She does not allow that in her like public space. And even for when we originally talked about her and Travis Kelce and people being like, oh my God, I can't believe they're so public. No, she's
never felt safer.
No, she hasn't. And it's been like taken care of, and someone who's like isn't threatened by her.
I'm sorry, and they were at a gala
Yes, I know you're exactly what you're going to say.
Her security guard
stepped back
way on the other side
which
of the room.
Is not normal for her.
Scrolling through his phone because he
knew that Travis was safe. Yeah. And I think
she knows that she's been taken care of, and that's why they were able to go. They showed up at Coachella. I mean, I already called Endgame when we first talked about this.
They're Endgame,
and for sure. I would be shocked if they don't.
No, and I don't think we're ever going to get a public announcement of any engagement. I don't think we're going to get a public announcement of a wedding. Happen. I think it's going to happen naturally. They're going to do their thing.
And I love that.
And I love that for her.
Us
anything. And I think that she saw that she was obviously very public about all of her relationships pre-Joe. And Joe was the one that kind of because she had she was still in that reputation era of
I need to go into hiding.
And people were treating her like garbage and all the things. And then you kind of saw, I mean, in my eyes, you saw the unraveling of her and Joe's relationship over the course of Lover, of Folklore, of Evermore, and then obviously of Midnights. Yeah. You saw the unraveling. There was never I think people think that they had this perfect relation. First of all, no relationship is ever perfect, but I think there was a lot of things that he lacked, and she was when a girl is in kind of that vulnerable state of insecurity and not feeling like she's valued, she kind of settles for garbage. And I'm not saying he's fully garbage, but I think that he just was kind of there for her, and he didn't have expectations.
Correct. I was gonna say, she almost says it, I think it's in the Midnights album, where she was it's the Midnights album where she's I think about you at midnights like this, but you only think about me when you see me on TV.
Yeah, in Lavender Haze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that. Thank you.
Sick.
Shark just didn't hear.
I know. Yeah, she's excuse me.
But she says that you don't think about me unless you're seeing me on TV, and it's oh shit, I have a girlfriend.
And he didn't want to marry her, and that's
and the other thing is he didn't want to live in the public eye.
And that's a part of being, but that's part of being with her.
That's part of being with Taylor. And at the time, though, it worked for them because she wanted to not be in the public eye because everyone was tearing her down and being so cruel with
and she
words.
Is, bar none, the most famous she's ever been.
Yes. And,
I think that she needed someone to be as famous as she is. Not as famous, but as famous in their space.
But yes, and to match the energy of what it means to be with someone
and support them and hype them, and
let them be who they are and do what they
and not change who they are. Yeah, 100%. And I think you see that I am living in the Tortured Poets Department era right now. I'm living in it. I'm thriving in it. I'm not wishing for Reputation. I mean, I'm always wishing for Reputation, Taylor's version. I'm always wishing for that, but I'm very much living in a content state of the Tortured Poet.
I'm loving all the new stuff.
No, I'm loving it. And I'm thinking about we got these hints of Travis through Tortured Poets Department. And I think that first of all, I mean, I'm going to make this solid prediction. I think we will get Reputation and Debut before we get a new album altogether. I think she'll continue with the pattern that she's been, where it's been 2, then a new album, then 2, then a new album. But I'm excited to see the era of Taylor that emerges musically now, because So High School is such a breath of fresh air of and I don't think we've ever had that from Taylor. And I will go out on a limb and say that there's been glimpses of it on other albums, but we really haven't gotten that fresh, vibrant Taylor since 1989. Yeah. I would say, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that, because even
I would agree with that.
If you think of Fearless, you think of Speak Now, you think of Red, they're heavy albums.
They are heavy
because
albums.
They're all lyrically written by her. So even though, yes, some of Red was written elsewhere as well. They're lyrically, that's her life. And she was very like open. And obviously that is one of the reasons like I felt for Taylor as an artist. And I just never envisioned like, you know, I think back in high school, I like wrote a blog. You can't find it. Don't go looking for it. It's not available. But like I talked about what Taylor meant to me. I swear to God, like waxed poetic in 2009.
1989 though, was she single?
No.
She was with Calvin Harris?
No. Yes, towards the end of 1989 era, she was with Calvin. But that was 1989 details Harry.
Oh, that's right.
And I would say, and I would honestly, I would venture to say probably Matt Healy as well. I would say if you go back to 1989.
I'm just trying to think of like what was going on in her life.
No, it was Harry.
So fresh.
It was
like a little bit different.
But it was post Jake Gyllenhaal. That's going to make it fresh because she was a completely different human. He completely changed her.
Yeah.
And I think when you go back to 1989, it's something I do plan to do at some point. I love, not that I don't listen to 1989, that's not what I'm saying. But I think that there's a lot more references to Matt Healy on 1989 than we know about, because that was very much, I believe, the time that they kind of started. I think in 2014, they say it's about 10 years, about a 10-year span of when they were together on and off. And I think that kind of alludes to that. But I think that that's probably the freshest album that she's had. I mean, as an overall whole, because everything else is pretty, I mean, Midnight's has some like banger tracks, but they're like kind of depressing. Like they're kind of depressing bangers. Yeah. Cause like, I mean, even if you think of like Bejeweled is like, it's a banger, but like she talks about like someone like stealing her like shine. Like it's like, as much as it's a banger, it's like a coming, it's like
no longer sparkling.
It's like you're taking like a clean from 1989 and you're like making it like fresher and like, you know, I'm clean from it, but like I'm trying to like get back to who I am. And, so I think I'm excited because like I think of like So High School, and like while it's like not on my like top 5, it's one of my favorite tracks. It's just not one of my top 5 because we had to narrow it down to 5 and it was really hard. But like it's just like you hear her voice is different even when she performs it. Like it's just like
she's in love.
No, and I'm so glad she put it on I'm so glad she added it to Eras, because I think that like it just like added like this like fun and fresh.
She deserves to share that.
Mm-hmm.
She deserves to like feel the way she wants to feel and perform it and feel it when she performs it.
Yeah, and like then like he's like in the room and it's just like a fun
magical.
No, it's so magical. And then like I think about like he like got to hear the song like before obviously it was released, and like how cool. I mean, I'm sure he just was like she could have said
cried.
He probably probably did. Cried. And she could have said
Chelsea boys, I will say they are in touch with their emotions.
But
I love that.
But like she could have said anything about him and he probably would have cried. Like he like it's just so good. I'm thrilled about it. Okay.
But speaking of our top 5,
yes, let's
dive into that.
Okay.
Mine in no particular order, but I want to make that very clear. I've got I'm Gonna Get You Back. Actually, that one is for sure one of my top favorites. I love it. I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, Guilty as Sin, The Alchemy, and Down Bad.
Okay.
Thoughts?
We only have one crossover in our top 5.
I'm not surprised.
No, I'm not either. Which one do you think's our crossover?
The Alchemy.
Nope.
Guilty as Sin.
Yep. My top. So these two are definitely like my top 2 that like alternate depending on my mood. Is Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. Also, if you've never heard a 6-year-old scream that in the back of your car, you're really missing out. Honestly, it's also very scary. Like it's also kind of like a very scary thing.
Well, Who's Afraid of Little Old Me?
Yeah.
Little.
Well, and now Eloise sort of sings it too, which is even scarier, I believe, than Char singing it, which is, I mean, I live for it. I think it's the Torture Poets Part, I have to say, is like one of the least child-friendly albums that I like. of Taylor's.
Ridiculous.
No, I know, but like some of the themes are just a little heavy and like this,
don't get it.
and this, but they're not bops for them. Like they don't enjoy listening to this, like blah. The other one that is my interchangeable top is The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, which has actually grown on me significantly. Because when I first heard it, I go, this is not it for me. That bridge is chef's kiss, so good. And then it really hit me when she performed it live for Eras. That's when I was like, oh my God, this bridge is unmatched. And now it's like a scream in your car bridge. It's so good. Guilty as Sin, obviously, as we talked about our crossover, but Daddy, I Love Him.
Oh, that's a good one. That could be like interchangeable with a few of mine. That one.
Yeah.
And My Boy Breaks His Favorite Toys.
I would interchange. Oh, my last one is The Black Dog, but again, interchangeably with I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Again, depends on the mood. You have to like be feeling these. You have to feel it out because sometimes it's just. No, it's so good. It's so good. And I think that it's just like enjoyable to listen to because like there's so many moods. There's like so many moods it encompasses because like Fortnite is like great. Like I think it's a great starter. It's like Lavender Haze. I think Lavender Haze is a very solid track one, just like Fortnite. I think is just a really solid track one. I do
sets the tone.
No, I do. I absolutely do too. And I think definitely agree with the theory that Fortnite was supposed to be a collab with Maddie Healy. I absolutely will die on that hill. I'm
glad that it's.
No, I'm glad too. I think she wrote the song thinking that they were going to continue to be seeing each other, and then pulled, and she was
like,
no. But the one thing I do have to say before we wrap up this section is that I do think that he is probably the most apt to handle the negative aspect of having Taylor write songs about you because because he's also a songwriter and I think that's one of the things that
he's like, girl, release it,
because he's done it too. And I think that it's one of those things. It's like he's like, yeah, I think he knows he's a little trash. I think he knows
that he screwed up.
I think he does too. Do I think? And he's got like the other girl now, which is fine, but like I'm happy for her to be moving on with someone who makes her happy, that she gets.
Everyone deserves that.
Oh, completely. And I'm just glad that she's finally gotten it. And I think we've all kind of, as Taylor fans for like, when you've been Taylor fans for a long time, you've heard her talk about how much she wants that, that safe relationship. And like seeing her have it, I think is a different level as a Taylor fan. Like just you're like, because you've grown up with her feeling these things and you felt these things, and then you finally get to be like, she's getting that finally. And it doesn't mean that like, because money didn't buy her happiness with a person, because it just caused so many more issues for her. So that's where we're at.
I will say, when if you go back and listen to other, her older albums, all the Taylor versions and stuff like that, you go back and like the point of your life like pop in your head.
Oh gosh.
Like, oh my god.
I mean,
and then you're like in your feels all over.
No, and
which I love.
No, I think it's one of those things that's missing. Like again, no hate if you became a Taylor fan more recently, but when you've grown up with her, it's a different level. And I think it like, because people that like think I'm an insane person, which is fine. Congratulations. Like, you're not the first person to think I'm insane. I know who I am. I am who I am. But like with the Taylor stuff, I think, because for me, it's not trendy. It was never like a fad. It was like, I was going through my first breakup in 2008 when Fearless came out, and I had been dating a guy for 3 years in high school on and off, and thought I was going to marry him. I mean, thank God I didn't. He's not listening to this, but thank fucking God. But I like remember like crying to Whitehorse in my like VW Beetle driving home from school.
When Red came out, my boyfriend at the time, I was in college when Red came out.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd been dating for a little over a year.
Yeah.
I'd gone away with my nanny family because I was a nanny at the time for 10 days to Florida. I came back and found out that he had been cheating on me while I was gone for 10 days. And then Red came out, and that was my breakup album. Like, literally the song Red, I would just blare it.
Do you know that I had gone through a breakup like right pre-Red time, and I streamed the song We Are Never Getting Back Together 277 times.
Wow.
I would sit in my office because I like had like a fresh like big girl job. I would sit in my office and like, I'm talking on freaking repeat, and like as if I was like manifesting it constantly. And it's literally, no, straight up 200. So I will never forget looking at, because on iTunes it used to have the thing.
I went to that tour.
That tour is a great tour.
It was good.
No, it's just, I think it just hits different. Like when you're near Taylor's age and you kind of lived these like life experiences with her, because I had a, this is the last thing I'll say so we can like wrap this section up. But, I had a business coach. She was like a life business coach, like about a year ago. And I don't know if I told you this, but she knew I was a Taylor Swift fan, as most people on planet Earth do.
I think you did.
And she was like, you like Taylor Swift, but like you can't like relate to any of her like stuff. And I was like super taken aback by it, because I was like, first of all, you don't know my life. Number one, first of all, like, yes, you're like a life coach and like a business coach, but like you don't know my life.
You don't know
like
my life in depth.
In depth. And like, you don't need to be living things currently to still be like very much wrapped up in, not wrapped up, but like still within the story of your life. Is like, there's so many moments, like you said, that like for us, like you listen to a song and you immediately are like, I'm right back. And like, not in a bad way, like, but like in a nostalgic, like,
yeah,
thank God I like moved past these things, or, you know, or like, I remember like where I was when I like listened to the album for the first time, and like it's just different, and it's just a different wild ride as a Taylor Swift fan long term. And I will wax poetic about that for like 900 years. I'm waiting for someone to give me a TED talk, because
she will be attending.
Honestly, I like,
you should just give one.
I mean, I do. This podcast is a constant TED talk about Taylor Swift. I mean, my Instagram's a constant TED talk about Taylor Swift. I'm sure people think I'm totally insane, and I really don't care. Like, I'm kind of like over that phase of my life of like giving a shit what people think, as far as like if I'm like obsessed with Taylor Swift or not. Like, I don't. Like, congrats. Like, welcome. Books and Taylor Swift. Thank you. That's it. I'm a very simple creature. So
don't forget Legos.
Don't forget Legos, and also your crispy Coke. So, which Amber surprised me with this morning, because it's a late night. It was a late night.
Okay, I also want to talk about, we're gonna move from Taylor Swift. We love you, but it's time to take a break. It ends with us movie date being moved. Oh wow! If you didn't see that was a full-blown eye roll.
I don't know if I will even go see the movie, to be honest with you. I have kind of gone back and forth on whether or not I will actually see it in theaters.
I want to know why. What's your list of reasons why?
First of all, I feel like they've been making the movie for 55 years, or talking about making the movie. Like, I feel so like I'm kind of like, okay. It was like exciting. Like now it's like, I'm like, meh. Like when, like I compare it a little bit to the conversation about like when they were talking about making the Daisy Jones show. Okay. And it was very much like, oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then like, I never stopped being hyped for it. And it was like a very long drawn out process as well. And it just was not lost to me. Like I was like thrilled about it, like reread the book. And I'm not a rereader of books because I'm very much like, let's get on to the next. Like, we're solid.
Definitely.
But Daisy Jones is one of the only books I've reread in the last 5 years. And it was the book that got me back into reading.
Okay.
I think I was pregnant with Shar, possibly, or like freshly with a baby. But the reason I don't feel that way about It Ends With Us is because I just feel like, first of all, it's been talked about. Then there was like the whole period of time with the outfits, every day they'd be posting the pictures of the ugly outfits and people would be like, what is this outfit? And it was like, that got really annoying for me. So like that also started to knock it down. Like, I feel like it was up here. Also, just in general, like, opinion that's probably a super duper unpopular opinion. Obviously, I believe all of us went through a Colleen Hoover phase. I think everybody on God's green earth. And I had never heard of her until I got like fully into Bookstagram and then like read like a crap ton of her books. Obviously, It Ends With Us was one of them. And that was not the first one I started with. I want to say the first one I started with was it was either Verity or Ugly Love. I can't remember.
Mine was either It Ends With Us or Layla.
Oh, I have not read that one. I know that that's the spooky one. This is, yes. Yeah, no, because it said it was spooky, so I couldn't.
Spooky.
But I didn't get the hype of the book. Like, it was good for me back then with my taste, but like, I didn't think it was one of her best. And I think everyone kind of really.
I think Verity is
her best. Hands down. She should only be writing thrillers. Like, that's my own personal opinion. Like, she should only. Like, not that the romances are absolutely horrific.
I don't think they're horrific. I think they're heavy.
Mm-hmm. But I think
topics are heavy and things like that. But I think a lot of that is what she experienced in her own life. Because I think that book, It Ends With Us, is
yes. It's a play. It's
what's the word? It's like
it's inspired by her own true events.
For her mom.
Yes. And so I totally understand that. And so I feel like I'm like so over it now. And like, I love Blake Lively. I think the casting was fine. I have nothing against I know people have like something against the casting, whatever.
But she's come out and said about the casting is that when she wrote it, she just wrote these people as young people.
Yeah.
But what she didn't take into account at the time of the writing is that it takes a long time to become a brain surgeon and all of those things. So, like, you're not a brain surgeon at 25. No, you're a brain surgeon at, like, 35.
Yeah.
So, I think is why the casting was done the way it was.
No, I 100% agree with that. I just don't know. Like, I'm just not like excited about it. And
I am, and I'm planning on rereading the book before.
Are you?
Movie. Yeah.
Are you going to read both books or just the one?
I don't need to read the fan fiction Colleen Hoover book.
That was absolutely.
Okay, so I literally, I did not tell you this. I told my sister this because we were at Legoland when my friend said it to me. Somebody in one of my book club group chats was like talking about books, and someone who has never dove into the Colleen Hoover of it all was like, is she worth it? And my answer was, no, I think you need to not do it to yourself.
That's a loaded question.
Only because she is a strict fantasy reader.
Oh, God. So what is she doing?
She wanted
to like, know. Yeah.
Is it worth, like,
because
trying?
Because if you think about it, like, if you think of this is going to be a hot take. The equivalent in the fantasy world of Colleen Hoover to the romance world is SJM, is Sarah J. Maas. In the terms of the hype of,
yes.
If you're talking about, like,
she's already read all of those.
But I'm saying it's not deep. Like, it's not like it's, and I think that as a fantasy, I think as a fantasy reader, that's kind of like a very interesting, now knowing that you said,
pretty strict fantasy books, which is fine. And she, whenever a thriller or a romance novel gets picked for book club, like, obviously she reads it, or attempts to, which is fine. But I said, if you're going to do it, like, read Verity.
Verity,
Like,
always.
And just read that. And I was like, if you really want to like understand the hype of it, what is going to be It Ends With Us, like for the movie and stuff, I was like, yeah, give it a shot. Just be prepared that there's heavy topics. There's a lot going on. I was like, but you can definitely pass on It Starts With Us. At the time, for what It Starts With Us was, I thought it was a 5-star read. Looking back.
Oh, gosh.
No, it's like a 3. But somebody in the group chat was like, she's like, my theory on It Starts With Us is that somebody else wrote it as a fanfic for Colleen Hoover, and Colleen Hoover just put her name on it.
What it is to me was an extended epilogue that nobody, like, I mean, all these people asked for it, but like, it didn't need it. No, and I was actually super duper fucking hyped about it when I was like, this.
I was like, this was a.
Do you know?
It was so good. And now, like looking back at that, like I think it was more of a 3.
Well, and it's funny because I was reading Icebreaker during this. So good. I was reading Icebreaker.
You like it or you hate that book?
I was reading Icebreaker. It was still on KU when I was reading Icebreaker. Like that's a KU as well. And I literally paused reading Icebreaker the day that It Starts With Us came out so I could read that. And then I was like, oh, 5 stars. Like, amazing. 5 stars. And then I went back to Icebreaker and I was like, this is 5 stars. That's not 5 stars. But
yeah, when she said like it's a fanfic that somebody wrote for Colleen Hoover, and I was like, oh damn.
Absolutely.
Oh damn.
I mean, 100%. I think the thing that would make me want to go see it is if, like, to see what they changed from the book to the movie, more so than anything. And
that's why I want to reread the book. It's been so
long for me too. I think most of the time I love watching book to movie or book to TV adaptations of like books I actually read. Like if a TV show is coming out, I won't or a movie's coming out, like, and I've never read it. Like I won't necessarily like go and read it beforehand. I mean, that's a spoiler alert. We're going to be doing that for next month. It's gonna be so good.
Next episode.
But like that book, We Were Liars, which I talk about, is one of like the worst books I've ever read in my entire life. I just found out that it got greenlit for a TV show. And they already have a cast. Like they're already there. It's already there. Like they have a full cast. And like I hate that book. It is one of the books that TikTok did me so fucking dirty because I was like, this is I'm just kept waiting for it to get better because I was like, it's got to get better. It never got better. It actually got very worse, like much worse. And I will 100% be watching the train wreck that is the show because
Did you watch Tell Me Lies?
No.
Which is also based off a book.
I have not read the book.
I've never read the book.
Okay.
I watched the show.
Did you enjoy the show?
For what it was.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is definitely going to be one of those that I can't physically enjoy it because I hated the book so much. So even the premise to me is like, I'm curious to see if they change it from the way the book, because I literally read spoilers to get through the book. And then I still finished the book, but I had already gotten spoiled because I was like, I just need to know what the fuck happens because this is absolute garbage. Sure. But I think that's one of the reasons I will do It Ends With Us. Plus I love Blake Lively just in general, but like she can do no wrong for me. But
no, literally.
I mean, I don't know if she can do wrong in this, but
also I just wrote a list like back in March of things I want to talk about for the April episode.
Welcome. It's June. Hello, it's June.
We're going to talk about some of this stuff. There's only one more. Stassi Schroeder announced that she's writing a 3rd book. You Can Have It All. And I'm so excited for it because I've read both of the other ones.
Also, can we...
And I'm a Bravo fan. I'm a Stassi fan.
I mean, if you're not a Stassi fan, like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm a big Stassi.
Get me a Pinot Grigio, please.
I need you to do something for me. Speaking on stuff, like I don't know how I've never said this to you. So on your Goodreads, it still says you're currently reading it. I need you to change that because it makes me really angry because I know you're not reading multiple books at once. No. And so I was like, I know she's finished that book, and it's probably been like years. Yeah. And it literally, so if I go to her Goodreads, if I'm doing like our graphics, which will come back now that I'm like getting settled. It says you're currently reading it, and it makes me literally insane. And I'm like, I know she's not reading multiple books at once. It's never.
You are not that chaotic.
No, because I was talking in the car last night, and I was saying how I finished, obviously we'll talk about it in the May episode, but I finished the 5th ACOTAR book, and then immediately started reading Crescent City that same night. And then the next day I was like, oh, I should probably like do something fluffy too. And so then I also started Abby Jimenez, The Friend Zone, and Kristen's in the backseat, and she's like, that is too much. She goes, I don't know how you do this, because Kristen's also a mood reader, but it's a different kind of mood reading than what I do. And
then I said, oh no, she like will read and listen to Crescent City all at the same time.
And I just got it on the library. I'm so excited.
And I was like, she also, like, she did that through Throne of Glass. You did it through ACOTAR. You've done it through almost every book. Like, you will listen to it and you will read it. Mm-hmm. Just whatever is most convenient for you at the time.
I did it through Iron Flame.
Yeah.
I did it through Fourth Wing.
I just could not be me. One, because I just can't do audiobooks.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't do it through Magnolia Parks because there was no audiobooks when I read them. So that's one of the series that I did not do it through. Yeah. And through Emily Henry, I don't as well.
Okay, I fixed it on my Goodreads, but I'm not adding it to...
No, that's fine.
Mark it as read because
I just needed it off there for my sanity, but
it's gone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all.
And that is it for other things I want to talk about in the episode. But let's talk about books for April. Perfect. I read 8 and read a little over 3,000 pages. My average rating was 4.5. April, I had banger after banger after banger after banger after banger. I was on a long emotional roller coaster for a minute. Mm-hmm. And then we hopped off, and that was all fine and dandy. My favorite book from April was Sicko by Amo Jones. I literally will never not be thinking about that book. If you have triggers, I highly don't recommend this book to you.
You're like, if you have triggers, please don't.
Of any sort, please do not read this book. If you do not, look it up. It's on KU. It's fantastic. I actually have a special edition copy from a subscription box. So it's very... I don't know if you guys can see it, but I really enjoyed this book, and everyone I've recommended it to who's read it, it's like, oh, what did I just read? Literally just blew my mind. Like, the twists, the turns, the things that were happening, like, just...
You're like, all the things.
Insanity. But I had banger after banger. I read Sicko, I read Swift and Saddled, I read The Nightingale, which was the slowest, fastest read I've ever read.
It's exactly how you describe it. I don't know. I think that's just her writing in general, to be honest with you, because that's how the women was as well.
I don't know how gung-ho I am on picking up another one.
I mean,
I think I need to wait. Like, I wouldn't...
I don't... No. I don't...
I do want to read The Great Alone.
Oh, it's right there. If you would like to borrow it. I have not read it, but it's right there if you'd like to.
That's like another one people talk about all the time. But I read The Nightingale from book club, and
she'd been wanting to read it though, just in general.
I already
so
had a copy of it, so was very excited that I had a push to get to it, kind of.
It's funny really because I have multiple Kristen Hanna books.
Yeah,
it says you could. I have
The Nightingale.
I have another one. I think. Do I have another one on there? I don't know. I think maybe I sold it on Pango, but I can't remember. But I do have read 2 of those. I just haven't read The Great Alone yet. But I think she's one of those authors, because what really pushed me finally was Becca from book club told me, like, she's like, it's my favorite. Like, Kristen Hanna is like my favorite. I totally get the hype, because Becca's one of those authors Becca's not one of those authors. Becca's one of those people for me that if she likes a book, most often I will also like the book.
Yeah.
So she's just, Kristen Hanna, I feel like, is like such not an acquired taste. She's an amazing writer. She writes but she does her research.
And
I think that that's really cool. And she writes about because she's mostly historical fiction, which isn't like my favorite topic unless we're talking like Taylor Jenkins Reid historical fiction. Very different than Kristen Hanna, by the way. Not even.
Well, like
not
the
even.
Nightingale is World War II in occupied France, and it's about two sisters and what they did during World War II.
But like, it's not the historical fiction she writes is like overarching about like a very main, very well-known event in history.
Yes.
But then she like takes it
on its head,
and she like
gives you a completely different point of view of the whole thing.
And that's how The Women was, because The Women's the other Kristen Hanna that I've read, and it's about the Vietnam War.
And it's the nurses. Right?
But they're female nurses who are in the army, and one of them had to lie. The female main character had to lie about her age to be admitted in there, and it talks about like her whole journey, and like it's very also like if you like really like are into historical fiction, she's bar none the best, I would say, as far as that goes. But The Women just brings to light like because everyone gaslit her and was like, no, there was no females in the army in Vietnam War. And it was like this whole thing, but it's like true. Like these things
are research.
And it's just, and it was, that one is very strongly rooted in mental health. And so there's a lot of triggers within that. Yeah. But it's an incredible, like the way she crafts these characters to believe, like you believe that these people really existed, like in this, and they didn't, but you feel like it, but it's completely different. And you like in April read like such a wide array of books.
I read like a sports romance, Past the Rush. That was like an arc that I received. And then I read Caught in the Axe, which I'll talk about later. And then I read Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Caught in the Axe was by Daphne Elliott, sorry. I did receive that one as an arc. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which was amazing.
Banger.
I rated it 5 stars. I actually want to bring it down to 4.5.
Okay.
It just doesn't live like as rent free in my mind as I thought it was at that moment in time of reading.
It's still living rent free for me.
Like emotional roller coaster. Mm-hmm. And like Kim K crying, like all the things.
So good. And that one, because you brought it up and I'm going to talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
Highly recommend that you read Part of Your World and Yours Truly pre-reading that one.
I never read Yours Truly, but I did read Part of Your World.
There's more intricacies within Yours Truly that you probably didn't even catch which is totally fine. But if you do like the cute little like Easter eggs, there's obviously Easter eggs from Part of Your World in there as well. But if like there's these really cool ties, I won't talk about them on the podcast because I talked about them with one of the dance moms who I had just loaned the copy of Just for the Summer to her after loaning her the other two. And so she like fully like has been binging those for the last like 2 months basically. And we just were gushing over like the ties and the cool, like it's just really cool. So like highly recommend if you haven't read either of those, I would read those first just for like the continuity aspect. You can totally read them standalone. They're interconnected standalones, but there's the crossover is minimal, I would say, in the sense of like it's just more of like fun if that's like your vibe, which it's my vibe.
You can read it as complete standalone and just be like cool
and like living because it's great.
Yeah, no, it is really good. And then I read His Missing Piece by Ashley Warren. I received that one as an arc, super cute, lovey-dovey. But then I read Between Never and Forever by Britt Benson. Oh my goodness, just jaw on the floor, constantly mind blown, constantly emotional roller coaster.
I love those books.
Like because I read The Nightingale, Sicko, Just for the Summer, and Between Never and Forever back to back. And I just was like on this just journey of emotions. I was like, I gotta get off. I got to get off and read something lighter.
It's true. That's a lot. That's a very like it's just like heavy. Yes, like it's just like
very heavy,
but like not in a bad way.
No, but again, like I had banger after banger after banger after banger. So
yeah.
All right. What about your April?
My April was garbage. I read 4 books. I did warn everyone at the beginning of 2024 that the 13 book months and the 11 book, like they had to happen. They did have to happen for these months. I didn't know what was going to happen in my life. So I can't necessarily say that. April was a heavy month for me emotionally, like in my life. Obviously with the move, the health things, there's just a lot that was going on. So reading competition. So I read 4 books in the month of April, totaling 2,064 pages. Average rating 4.06. So it was just a rough month. I ended the month with Just for the Summer, thank God, because it was incredible. Loved it. 10 out of 10. So good.
A great book club.
Great book. So I have to pat myself on the back for that one because
you just took initiative and said,
this is what we're reading because I want to read it. So everyone else here is going to be reading it because I want to read it and I need an excuse to read it. I would have read it anyway, but I liked that because if you don't know, like in our book club, like we vote on picks, but the problem is that even though they're all typically romances for the most part, I think all of them have always been romances despite like having little intricacies of Divine Rivals was a romance. No, it was a fantasy.
No. Yes, I wasn't. That was the point.
Oh yeah,
of the club.
The book club. Yeah. I'm gonna read romance. But we vote, and sometimes the picks just aren't fan favorites for everyone, which obviously not everyone's going to love every single book. But
that's the point of book club.
Yes, but we've had a pretty rough time the last few months. I feel like it's been pretty rough
this one,
before Just for the Summer, it's been like a lot of DNFs. It's been a lot of just like rough times. Correct. So I just took initiative. I said, yes, let's read it, blah, blah, blah. I also read The Husbands, which was a Jenna's book club pick. Is meh. It's whatever. You can totally skip it and like your life will be fine. I also read How to End a Love Story, which is by, I can't pronounce her name, so I'm not even going to try. This was her debut novel, but it was absolutely incredible. Such an emotional roller coaster, very heavy grief topics.
We'll put it in our description.
Yes, it was one of my favorites that I've read, like romance wise this year for sure. She's actually the screenwriter on Emily Henry's projects, so that's how she kind of is very like known in the space because she's the screenwriter of like Beach Read and like People We Meet on Vacation. So like she's obviously very good at what she does. I also finally read the Shark book. It was as terrible as we all believed it was going to be. Sharks were talking to each other. It was a lot. It was just a lot.
Humans were turning into sharks.
Well, that's the whole premise. But humans were turning into animals.
Yeah.
There was a lady.
Animals in general.
Yes. And there was a lady who was pregnant with twin birds. It was a whole thing. And she died because they like pecked her from the inside. It was like a whole trigger warning. So, it was a pretty rough month. I would say we had like, obviously out of 4 books, 2 of them were 5-star for me, which sounds great. But the other 2 were so bad that it just didn't fucking matter, honestly. Yeah. Not that it didn't fucking matter. The other 2 were great and lived definitely rent free in my brain. But yeah, not it for me this month, but in the month of April. Yeah. So I'm happy to have left that month where it may. I am still on track though, as far as like my book goal for the year, despite having some slower months with some crappier books. So
that's okay. It happens.
It happens.
I think that is it for this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for coming back.
Yes.
We definitely miss you guys just as much as we miss each other.
Yes. Well, maybe less, but still a lot.
Yes.
A lot, but less.
Yes.
We appreciate you though.
But we will see you back for another episode.
All right, guys.
Like, subscribe, all the things.
Comment, Send it to your friends. All the things.
Share it with your friends. All your book.
Share it the way that Amber shares it with everybody.
Literally everybody. Anybody who listen, I will talk about it.
Except for the guy at Barnes & Noble at the Iron Flame release.
Except for that guy. There is a line.
That's the line.
That's the line. Happy reading, guys.
Thank you so much for tuning in today to Tropes and Tantrums. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram. And don't forget, happy reading.